I'll give a short introduction of myself. Then next 2 pointers are flow-based offense. What is it and why to play, or what's the good idea about playing flow-based offense? As the 4th point step, we'll go into breakout rooms again, and we'll talk about setting up a drill, or you'll brainstorm about setting up a drill and give a small presentation of what your group have come up with. Then just before the small break that we have later on, I'll teach you about the 2-2-1 rule. And after the break, I will present to you a practice session that consists of 4 practices to introduce flow-based offense to a team. I also give you some ideas for adaptations for different kinds of levels. And then we might have another little workshop exercise about being flexible, and finish off with a little Q&A. All right, let's start. This is me. I have played on various teams all over the globe, pretty much. One of my last very exciting teams I've played with is Revo, and we have won World Championships. I have learned a lot of different things, different playing culture, different styles of play, also the basics of flow-based offense, which is why I put Revo first. I've also played internationally on Boston Brute Squad. It's playing US Nationals and one of the best teams in the US. We lost in semifinals. Hopefully this year we can do better. Another highlight of my career was the World Games that happened last year. We played on the biggest stage of Ultimate Frisbee in a multi-sport event. It was definitely one of the best experiences of my life. And again, I've learned a ton in this. I started coaching myself just in my 2nd year of playing Ultimate. I was coaching my local club team, the Enzomis in Rostock. And then I started leading some smaller workshops for beginners, for intermediate players, for students of a high school, for high school teachers. I also did a couple of workshops for elite female matching players. And now this year, mostly because I was injured with my shoulders and I had some shoulder issues, I also started coaching the Germany mixed team that's going to EUC. So that's it for the boring part, and now we can dive right into the real topic and the flow-based offense. So let's go. Flow-based offense, what even is that, right? Flow-based offense is a style of play. It's a tactic, and it might even be a strategy. And in that strategy, the idea or the philosophy of the tactic is to have so much flow that the defense pretty much can never really set up, that the defense loses or never actually gains the control of the game. So the control always stays within the offensive team. At the same time, Ultimate Frisbee has been invented in the USA, and the USA has the traditional sports like basketball, like American football. And in those traditional US American sports, they're based on static plays. They're based on set plays. And it's less of a flowy game compared to, let's say, soccer, in which you always have the flow. And so this flow-based offense in Ultimate Frisbee takes a lot of the principles from the tiki-taka soccer, from the soccer we always look for triangles. I don't know how many of you have played soccer before, but I have a big soccer history. So for me, this flow-based offense was also very intuitive and very connected to those other sports that don't just have the traditional background of the USA. So before we start looking at the 3 big principles of the flow-based offense, I'd like to share the screen with you and show one YouTube video. I hope that's going to work. Just to get an idea of what I mean with the defense not being able to set up. You know, it means that I always want the disc to be released maybe within the first 1, 2, 3 seconds of catching the disc. So it's quick catch, then throw. A catch to throw, so to say. So let's try this. I have prepared right here. And I will start, and we will go through once just without me saying anything. And then the second time I might say a couple of things. I hope it's gonna work. Yeah, very nice, huh? Okay, so this is a point of a game from the World Games between Colombia and the US. And it's just a good example of what the idea of flow-based offense is. I will go back the 20 seconds that this point took. And I will just count out for you the stall count that has probably been set up. And you'll see the stall count is never rising above 3. Okay, so let's see. It's nothing, nothing. Stall 1, 2, stall 1, 2, stall 1, stall 1, 2, 3. Oh, that was a long one. Stall 1, stall 1, 2, stall 1, 2, 3. Okay, there we go. I hope that everyone could see at least a little bit what I meant with just flow-based offense. I will try to get back into my presentation, which is right here. Stop the show. This is right here. So next thing I will talk about is the 3 principles to reach or to like take on the principles of the flow-based offense. Number 1 is to always take the open pass. It's a very easy rule. You see someone open, you throw the pass. It doesn't really matter what direction that pass is going. You basically just want the defense to never catch up, to always run after you. So first rule, first principle, take the open pass. Second rule is to follow your pass. To play a lot of give and goes, and give and go movement, quick releases are like some of the main things that this flow-based offense idea is wrangled up around. So follow your pass is second principle, super important. Always throw the pass and follow right after it. If you want to play the give and goes, you also always have to have someone to play the give and goes with, which means you throw the open pass, you follow your pass, and your teammate, your other player also always needs to look for the return pass. You need to look for the return pass. You want to pass it and then get it right back. This as the first small introduction for the 3 principles. And to make it clear, I will show you one more YouTube video and to maybe, see it a bit better or see through a little bit more. This is a point of Fury against Revolution. It's from the World Championship in the final. And I will let it run through again one more time and then say a couple of things the second time we run through. Okay, this is just Eddie getting a defense. We do a little fast break, and this is just a couple of seconds later. Manu has the disc. Okay, great. Once again, stop it here. The disc is on the far sideline. It could potentially be a situation that is more difficult within other principles or within other ideas of play, like a vert stack, with like a sideline mark. But in this situation, we have Manu getting the disc and then dribbling. And you will see that in the beginning, she is not actually dribbling towards the end zone, which doesn't matter because both players or all the players are just taking the next open pass and the defense can never catch up. So I'll let it run through again. Manu is getting the disc now. He's playing the next open pass, going backfields. And now there's an open, deep Levke running there. Let's go. That was a lot of fun. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. Okay, let those 3 principles sink in. You will have to work with them. You'll have to embody them. You will have to really use them every time that you think about flow-based offense, that you want to play it. And just to be clear, some people would also say, hey, this sounds a lot like Hex. Yes, it sounds a lot like Hex. It pretty much is Hex. It is the same principles as Hex. I just prefer to call it what I would say it is. It's the flow-based offense that evolves all about the flow and the defense not being able to set up. But the further you dive into the topic and the more you go into what's the setup that's best for the team, you will get more and more into Hex shape and Hex playing. Right now, I would also love to give a big shout out to Felix from Hive Ultimate, who has pretty much invented this style of play and put out lots of sources, lots of ideas, lots of training videos on the platform Patreon. So if you are interested even further after the workshop that we're doing today, you can sure check out the Patreon website and learn a lot about this kind of offense. Okay. So next thing is why to play flow-based offense and what I personally love about flow-based offense. So the first principle, always throw the open pass, means that it forces players pretty much to throw early and often, which is great for any player development. It really doesn't matter what kind of level you play, it will always work out well. And if you play with beginners or with intermediate players, they will get a very steep learning curve because in the beginning, it's so essential to be throwing and catching lots of frisbees. And within this style of play, there's so much more catching and throwing with every player that this is a good idea to also bring into a beginner's team. What I also love about flow-based offense, as I said, for me, it's more intuitive because you can actually cut into the space that you want to go to. You have more freedom. You don't have as many restrictions as I sometimes find with the vert stack or with other stack variants or variations with set play variations. This is just, like finding the triangles, finding the open spaces. And I would say the more you practice or the more you let a group or a team play this style, the more the team will just learn automatically how to maintain and create spaces within that system. Third, very important argument for me to play flow-based offense, it is fun to play. It's a lot of fun to play, I can assure you, because the disc really never stops. It's so dynamic. It's great and a lot of fun. I also like this idea of flow-based offense because big plays in Ultimate are always cool to watch and a good thing to see, but I don't like when the tactical idea or the strategy is based on big plays, based on athleticism that is just higher or better than the opponent's team. And with this strategy and tactic, I feel like you can really just use the advantage of being the offensive team. Okay. So we already watched the examples. So now we'll already come to the next point, which is breakout rooms again. It's going to be your turn to brainstorm about a drill or brainstorm about game variations to maybe introduce 1, 2, 3 of the principles that we just learned. I also want to give you a few pointers that I always like to keep in my head when I'm coaching, which is 1, the more game form, the merrier. For some skills, it's important, like for some, to learn some of the skills, it's important to just have a drill set up. But to get the intelligence of gameplay, or to really get to know the spaces and get to know the game, it's important to use as much game form in practices as possible. So to get more game form, the merrier. Second thing I always like to keep in mind as a player, or that I always think is fun to have when I'm playing myself, is competition. I always it doesn't really matter what kind of competition it is. It can be against an opponent or like a teammate that is the opponent in that specific drill or exercise or game variation. It can be against another team within your team. It can be against the coach. Just any kinds of scoring points or having the opportunity to win makes it good for me. I know that there are other philosophies, but for this section, let's try and find the competition. Third thing is keep it fun. We all go into practice because we want to learn something, but also because we are all having a lot of fun whilst playing Ultimate. So have those 3 things in mind. This is the last presentation slide that you will see before going into breakout rooms. I forgot what I said about how many people in the breakout rooms, but now I think there are also a lot of people. We can do, let's say 4 or 5 people. And we will meet again in 15 minutes. No, let's say 12 minutes. And I think we are so many that we can't actually hear everyone, but I hope that some groups are going to be happy to present what they have come up with. Welcome back, everyone. I love to see the faces, and now that we are talking and maybe hearing some of you talk, I'd be even happier if I could see even more videos. The more the merrier, once again. Okay, so maybe is there a group, or is there someone from a group that would like to present one of your brainstormed ideas?
I can start, Levke. Hear me? Okay, I don't know what number room we were. I can't remember, but I'm sure my roommates will interrupt me when I forget things. So hello, everyone. Nice to meet you, Levke. Thanks for doing this. This is great. Okay, we had loads of ideas, actually, so hopefully I don't take too much time. I'll try and summarize them. So one of the ideas we had was to play a small game on a small pitch, and to have 4 players on offense and 3 players on defense, and just to play 1 possession. So the idea behind this is obviously with a smaller number of players, it's a bit easier to figure out chemistry, it's a bit easier to not get in each other's way. And the idea behind giving the offense an extra player is that there will always be an open pass. So you're very much encouraging the offense to be smart and to just find the open player, throws them, someone else will be open, throws them, and so on, and you should score. Rather than kind of falling into habits of trying to fight one-on-one for openings. There's just an open player. Will I continue, or we have 2 more?
I think that's 1 is good for now. Thank you very much for the idea. Later on, I might have or present a similar idea that I had when I'll introduce the practice sessions to you. Great.
You can, while playing in these games where you use, it's like playing in a game with incentives to get return passes to create, like you get a return pass and that can count as a point, or you can throw it before stall 3 and that can be a point. And you try to maybe string together a few of those to create a dribble opportunity, and maybe you can get more like combo points doing that. We also talked about having like a box sort of sized field where there's different end zones in the corners, and you can try to kind of shift where you're going on the field laterally and vertically and diagonally, because the dribble moves don't necessarily all have to be going downfield toward the end zone. They can be happening all over the field. We talked about using negative space as incentive. And we also just talked about the importance of like playing 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 and emphasizing return passes.
Thank you. Just to make sure everyone's on the same page, can you explain to us what negative space means?
Going backwards. So not toward the end zone you're attacking, but resetting behind where the disc is and using backfield space.
So we talked about lowering the stall count as a first kind of option to force the players to throw the disc quickly, depending on how big the field is. You can lower it to 8 or maybe even like 6 or 5. And then we were thinking of a drill that would contain like different lines of like scrimmage or whatever, and you are only allowed to play from one zone into the next. Typically in the drills in our club scenes, you always have to play to the front and you are not allowed to play to the back. Here we would encourage that you can play both directions, but you are not allowed to kind of jump one zone. You always have to play to the next one. So either backwards, then you go to the next one again, but you cannot skip one zone. That was the drill we thought about.
I hope I'm not the only one that's taking notes, because we're having lots of great input here. Keep it up.
We think something very similar to the previous person, but apart from slowing the stall count, maybe ask offense player to play to not to give back the disc to the same person, always play with a different one, or whether give the disc back to the same person.
Okay, let's hear one more drill, please, and then we'll move on.
But the drill where you set up like 5 to 7 static players in a circle and have one offense player in the middle and 3 defense players that need to guard that one person, and that one person can throw to the static players and get the disc back and need to after the disc because you want to get the disc that you just gave away near to that person because it's easier, and also that it's, even if there are 3 defenders, sometimes it's easy for just one person to get free and not completely covered by those 3 if you just keep it moving and do not let them establish a force.
Okay, thank you very much. I will restart the presentation. Okay. So we did the presentation. Good job on your part. And soon there will be our first water break, or let's say our only water break. But before the water break, I will talk to you, or I'll teach you the 2-2-1 rule. The 2-2-1 rule is something I always like to have in mind when coaching. As a player, it's always really, when you're in the action of a drill, it's really hard to actually take in lots of feedback and take in lots of input. So you have to be very clear and very, like this and that is what you have to change so everyone can actually follow and use the input that you're saying. Even if you're clear, sometimes input can just be too much. So this is what I recommend to do. So if you introduce a new drill, you just let the team run through the drill twice. And after those 2 times that they run through, even though as a coach, lots of things are going through your head and you're like, oh no, not like this, not like this, or please add this, or adjust this, or change this, whatever it might be. Just let them run through, and maybe they will also adapt this second set by themselves, or people will things will settle a bit more by itself. After those 2 sets, stop play, and now as a coach you can give 2 pieces of input. 2 pieces of input are probably going to actually reach the player, and maybe they will be able to adjust one of those 2. So after those 2 pieces of input that you've given, you let the team run through the same drill 2 times again, and it will hopefully all look a lot better. After those 2 sets that they went through, you can give them 1 more piece of advice, 1 more piece of input. And then there's 1 more set, that set, last set, best set, whatever. And then I always like to follow up with the reward, with a little treat. And that treat can look very differently. If it's a hot day and the drill is super exhausting, the reward can be a water break. And then you tell them, this is the last set. Afterwards, you'll have a water break. A reward can also be getting to play a small game, maybe a game 2-2. A reward can also be a little competition set, which means you have 2 drills set up and split the team into 2, and whoever finishes first wins. There's lots of different ways to introduce those rewards. I always feel like, especially in the end, that's something that it's very helpful and fun to work with. So that's the 2-2-1 rule. This is the slide that I showed you in the beginning, and about what to expect today. We have talked about flow-based offense, what and why to play. We have split into breakout rooms and all gotten some ideas about how to introduce this idea of play. I also really encourage you all, when you're trying to teach and coach something new, first, try and be creative and think of your own ways to introduce the ideas that you have. And sometimes it's very easy to ask other more experienced coaches for ideas for drills. And I know frisbee wise, there's also not as many books as there might be for soccer or other sports, but I really just encourage you all to be creative and find your own ways to teach what you want to teach. Last, I told you about the 2-2-1 rule, which means that now we get the little water break. We will meet again in 3 minutes. Bye. Okay. Again, I know I'm the only one that's talking at this moment, but I still always love to see other people's faces. I know everyone's just had their water break. I think I actually forgot to drink some water. I'll have some water. I dripped. That's fine. Yeah, anyways, if you're comfortable with it, I'm happy if you turn on your videos. Okay. I don't know. When I share my screen, do other people also see the small videos that I see, or is that no? Okay. It's good because for me it hides some of the slides. Okay, so let's dive into the practice sessions that I have prepared. The practice session consists of 4 practices, which are all about 90 to 120 minutes. That's like the more European style of practices. I do think we have some people outside of Europe, but I'm very happy to see you all here. Yeah, this is just pretty much what I just said. We have the 4 practices of 90 to 120 minutes. I'll show 2 practices at once and I'll walk you through them. And later on also, Sandra, I think, is going to open up a whiteboard for me so we can all understand the drills that I'm talking about. Just as a general setup that I like to use for my practices is a warm-up. You know, the times can vary so much. I just felt like I had to write something down, so I wrote something down, but that can vary so much just from one practice to another. The warm-up should include some kind of playing, in my opinion, and it should also always include a small throwing drill. It can be like one of the drills that you already know, like Hollywood squares or an X for you. I think I actually didn't always write down a throwing drill. It's just, for me, it's just like part of the warm-up. That's clear. The next part is the input part. In this part, you can also talk a bit, but talking during the practice, especially when it's only 90 to 120 minutes, should be very short and should be very clear. So most of that part is just the execution of maybe a new skill that you want to introduce, new tactical inputs, one of the principles, 2 of the principles, 3 of the principles that you want to teach and focus on in this specific session. Last thing is gameplay. This does not mean that there should be 30 minutes of 7v7 real game scenarios. I just think it should be lots of game variations again, and those game variations also count as gameplay for me, and therefore it can also be longer. Sometimes it can seem shorter, but because so many drills are based on game variations, it is actually lots of playing in those practices. All right, let's go. So I'll give you a minute to look at the slides to start talking right after. Okay, we have the first practice on the left side of the screen. And it's the same general setup. So we have the warm-up, the input, and the gameplay. And in the first practice that I would do to try and teach flow-based offense, I always love the warm-up game playing catch with the disc. In the setup playing catch with the disc, there's tiny fields, maybe 7x7, that's also what I wrote down. And you split the team into groups of 4 to 6 players and accordingly have as many small fields. So if you are 20 players in your practice, you have 2 fields and 5v5 in each of the fields. And then you pretty much just play catch with the disc. The one team always gets to stay on the offense and they can pass the disc. You are not allowed to travel with the disc and try and tap the opponent with the disc. As soon as you tap them, they are caught, they have to stop, and they are only freed when their teammates are crawling through your legs. And then the goal is to try and catch every one of them. Yeah, I've played this, or I've seen teams be successful to catch everyone with 4 and 5 players. With 6 players, it can already be very difficult to actually catch all of them, and then it depends on the level of play. If they make it, how fast can you throw, release, catch the discs, etc. But I love the drill, or I love this warm-up game for flow-based offense, because it's a good option to get into the practice mind, to shake off some of the stress of the day, to have fun, and then also to introduce the basic ideas of quick give and goes, or quick catches and releases for flow-based offense. The input of the first practice for flow-based offense should introduce the 3 principles, because that's what the entire offense is built around.
Can you just answer one question before you move on?
Yes, I definitely can. I just didn't read any. Wait,
that's okay. There's a question in the chat saying,
could you please repeat the crawling pad again? Okay, so when you tap an opponent with the disc, they just stand there and like with and like a split stance, so that it's not split stance. Split stance is the other way around. With like, I'll show you. I can stand up. It's very easy. You stand there like this, and then somebody should crawl to your legs, and that's how you free the person that's being caught. Understood?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay, so we are in the input part. We just talked about the 3 principles that should, use some words from the coach, and then start with the skill session, because we, as I said, for the principles, there's some skills that are required, and those skills include dribbling, so it's a fast give and goes, and the quick release. To learn this, I have to do this probably. I don't know, whatever. So for that, I like to do the dribbling tree, and to introduce the dribbling tree, I would love to use the whiteboard. It's not really a tree, it's more like a line. Those blue points are all players. Those are static players, and I like to call them the bouncers. And then there is the one person that's gonna run through the dribbling tree. And that person is gonna start here and has a disc in their hands. It's gonna throw to the first player and quickly run to receive the double pass, the give and go, then throw to the next player, run after, get the return pass, throw the next pass, run for the return pass, etc. So it's throwing the open pass, it's following your pass, and it's looking for the return pass. Once you're in the end of it, I'll finish the drawing. You pretty much just run a bit of a circle and then run back the same. Ta-da! That's what it looks like. Okay, back to the presentation. Okay, so that's basically some of the only input that I want to have for the first for the first practice, and then afterwards I just want them to play and to let the idea of the 3 principles sink in everyone's head. And I would like first practice to just play minis with like a bigger field. So it should be like a size maybe as big as the end zone, but that also really depends on the level of play. It should be different when you teach beginners to when you teach elite players or coach elite players. So just run through a little 3v3 tournament. It's going to be very intense. People have to always take the open pass, especially when you set the stall count a little bit lower. That's an idea that other people also had earlier today in the breakout rooms. So low stall count, just few people that are playing, and you'll just pretty much dribble and do ton of give-go movements to score a point. So that's it for practice number 1. The practice number 2. So to start off the practice number 2, I like to teach good vision of field of your surroundings and to try and incorporate those in the warm-up games or in the warm-up centrally. So I learned this kind of drill from soccer when we used to always pass in a chain, which means that every player always passes to the same player, which means you get a chain, you get a circle to pass around. You know, you don't stand in a circle, but you always throw to the same player, and then that player always throws to the same player, and then the last player throws to the first player again, which means it's a never-ending circle. That 5-player chain should be in an open space, in open fields. It can be as big as the end zone. It can be as big as half field. It depends on how many players you have. And then I like to add some visual tasks. So I would usually stand on the sideline and have different colored cones in my hands, and then just put one of the cones in the air. And I want the players to see those cones themselves, see how, if they're communicating. So it teaches like tons of different basics of ultimate frisbee. So some ideas for the visual tasks, but again, you can be creative. This is just like what I've played with before, but you know, there are no borders really. So a red could mean sprint to the sideline. That teaches how to clear or, you know, make space. The green cone can be change the directions of the order. So if before I have passed to let's say Laurie, and I've always gotten the disc from Bika, then now I will receive my pass from Laurie and throw to Bika. So that's just the idea, but again, the team will have to communicate and have to think quickly. For the yellow cone, in this case, there is the idea, if you have different kind of chains, that as soon as I put up the yellow cone, that player that has disc in their hands at this very moment can switch the team or switch one of the change. This is a bit more advanced. It takes much more communication and can definitely lead to chaos, but I also think it's okay or even fun to finish up a warm-up with like some chaos. It's fine. Okay. After being warm and maybe having some whatever, after being warm, the next thing that comes up is the repetition of last time. Last time the repetition was the dribbling. We probably introduced the dribbling tree with the 2-2-1 rule. So now you can either give no rules or just say, hey, please do 2 sets of the dribbling tree. It shouldn't take a long time. It's just to like have the players remember and use muscle memory to just have it as like a basic skill to use within the next practices. Next up, the input section for the second practice is a game of keep desk. That is very similar to the idea that Ian gave me or gave us earlier from the breakout rooms. It's still a bit different though. So we have a square field because the idea of this keep disk drill or session is that there is no real direction. There's not one end zone or the other. It's really just about keeping the flow alive. And you have 3 teams for this keep disk drill. You have, let's say, 4 players, 4 defensive. I'll use the whiteboard. It's easier.
And what's the size of the square field?
Again, that really depends on the level of players. I've played it with better club teams and with the mixed national team, and we did quite big fields of maybe 30 times 30 meters. It's quite big. But you can also use smaller ones. It depends on how good the long throws and big throws are. And yeah. Okay. So I have a square field. I have five defensive players inside. That's defense. Then I like to have 4 offensive players inside, or maybe even 3. So right now the offense is outnumbered, but we have the other players from the third team that is standing on the sideline to be a bouncer. Those bouncers are static. They're not allowed to, I mean, they can move a bit up and down the sideline of their square, but they are just the bouncers. So they're just allowed to pass it back to the player that has thrown to them. And then we have the offense. In this case, it's red and blue that are now playing actually 8 against 5, but with some restrictions. So this game variation for me really teaches how to play the open pass and how to use the flow to your advantage. And it can also really help the defense later on when you've like already advanced to being quite good at flow-based offense. Then maybe this is also very good defensive drill. But in the beginning, this is great for the offense to use, to try and use or find ways to use the advantage of playing flow-based. Again, in this case, the stall count should be very low. You can challenge your players and see what works or what doesn't work for them, but I would even be very, crazy and go with stall count 4 maybe. Once you feel comfortable and feel like the team has understood the drill and game variation. Okay, any questions for this setup? Okay. In the end of this practice, I like to increase the players a bit. So now it's 5v5 on big fields rather than the 3v3 tournament that we did last time. I still wouldn't want to go up to a 7v7 because now going from this square size field to the big fields with end zone will like be quite chaotic. So I think it's better to have more space and less players to make sure everyone can find their spot more easily. The third practice, I just wrote down your classic team warm-up, because even with all the fun, sometimes it's also good to just do the routine that your team knows. Everyone knows what the team's warm-up is. The input that I chose for this session is another small little skill session. And in that skill session, I would like to teach and coach the backhand on the forehand side. For flow-based offense, I feel like this is one of the essential skills to have. It most of the time requires a pretty low release, and it just gives the thrower more control about where it's going, and it often is a little bit easier to catch, and the release is also quicker, which means another essential skill, I would say, for the flow-based offense. Next up, super fun, is gameplay. This practice includes lots of gameplay, and it's called the 10-second drill, or the 10-second game. In this case, the offense, or we'll play, I said again, 3v3 on a long field. I would say full length of a field, but a little bit not as wide. And then the team that starts has 10 seconds to score a point. At the same time, if a turn happens, the other team also has 10 seconds. It's quite exhausting as a coach, but another important thing to always have in mind as a coach, delegating responsibility is always a good thing to do. So, name a timekeeper. There are always injured people at Ultimate Frisbee on the sideline. Great timekeepers. I have played a similar idea before, and I know that lots of people know the other idea, and the other idea is to, you have to score within 3 passes or within 5 passes or something like that. For a flow-based offense, so many passes can be thrown in less time, and I don't want to restrict the passes. I just want to improve, and maybe I just want the team to make quick movements and to play fast. And for that, I don't need them to only use a low number of throws, but I want them to be fast. So instead of restricting the number of throws, I like to restrict the time that they have to score a point. And then this third practice is very exciting, because in the end of it, there's the first time that I like to introduce, or that I like to play 7v7. It's gonna look very chaotic, especially because at this point, I have not yet introduced like a setup of how to stand and how to play, but I think it's a big part for the team to see and find out themselves what works for them and what doesn't, and later on you can tell them about how to set up, which in this case is probably a hex spacing. In Hollywood squares, I just want to throw just a throwing drill. There's one line of players here and one line of players here. This should or could be very short. Let's say it's like 5 to 10 meters. And then there's another cone here. Okay. And then this is a text marker, that's why it's weird. So the disc is here. And then we just have different variations of what kind of pass we want to throw. The pass should always come, or the cut should always come from the other side. And it can be just a cut up the line and then get the throw here. It can be a cut like this, then come down here. That's another variation, or like come down here. So this is a very short pass. And then the pass option is this one. Get the pass here. Yeah, it's like there are tons of variations, but I'm sure that that people can help you later in the breakout rooms if you still need more time to understand. Okay. For the last practice that I have prepared for the practice session, I like to repeat the game that I have introduced in the very first practice. So it's catching with the disc once again. And then it should repeat all the things that we have introduced before, which is dribbling, the 5-player weave. I have gotten to write it down earlier, and the keep disc. And in the end, there should be a 7v7 full field. I will just let players, I think in the third training session, there should have been the 5-player weave. And I will explain to you the 5-player weave on the whiteboard right now. So the 5-player weave is one of the first drills that I have learned with Revolution. And maybe if some of you knows Revolution or has watched them play before, maybe you can also understand why and how, because it's like a very typical style that they use, especially against the zone. But I think this can be adjusted and used for flow-based offense. In this case, we also have half the setup of a hex-shaped play. We have, oh no, I don't want the text marker. Okay. This one is more complicated, so please stay with me and try and keep up. If you have any questions, please ask directly. So I have 2 players in the middle of the field. This is my fields. Those 2 players are dribbling the disc. Then I have 1 player in the middle, another player on the side, and 1 more person on the side. If I would have the full hex shape, I would have 1 more person here and 1 more person here. But for the weave, I will take out those 2 players and just work with the 5 players that are in the backfield. Okay, so those 2 players start dribbling. This is how I signed that they're dribbling. And at one point, they will make a fake. This is just a hat, but I had to move places, so I don't have my frisbee right here. So I'll just do the fake. And then that person turns toward the sideline player. So turns toward the sideline. This is right now just turning and not passing or throwing. So when I turn to the sideline, this player is activated and gets into play. and then is thrown to. We remember the principles of flow-based offense. Follow your pass, take the open pass, follow your pass. So I follow the pass, and once I'm at the sideline, again, those two players that are now here are going to start dribbling. Dribble, 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 dribble. And we move, like the whole setup is going to move a bit upfield. At one point, I will again decide, oh, this pass is not open anymore. I will fake it, turn around again, and look to the backfield. This is just looking to the backfield. Now I will draw the same thing, but a bit further down. So this is the sideline and the two players. This player has the disc and has just turned around. The middle player is still the middle player. The sideline player is still the sideline player. And the one player right here that was dribbling in the middle of the field has now set up as a dump, but the dump should be pretty much right behind the player. So we now have those 5 players set up like this. Maybe this player right here should be a little bit more here. So like this. So they have just dribbled, then fake the pass. Throws the dump. The middle player is now coming into play and runs down. And we have some kind of like a swing setup. And when these 2 passes have been made, we are back into the middle with the 2 players that can dribble. So now we're back in the beginning. Two. We have 2 people in the middle, 2 players in the middle that are dribbling, sideline, a middle, and another sideline. They're dribbling, and then because we want to finish the swing, the next time they will go this direction. Follow the pass, dribble again, etc., etc. So in the end, that weave, when I don't draw the players, but pretty much just what the disc is doing, it would look like this. Choop, 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 choop. Choop, 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 choop. Etc., etc. So it's a weave that's pretty much never stopping. The disc is always running. And the player always has the disc only like 1 or 2 seconds within their hands before they release and throw again. Are there any questions for this drill? Has everyone understand what I mean or meant with the weave? It is a bit more complicated, so don't be shy. You can go ahead and ask.
I have maybe one question. The person who decides on the fake, is it always the same player, the one that starts in the middle, or can it be different players?
It can be different players. It's also same basic idea of flow-based offense that I said in the beginning. There's more freedom, less restrictions. So yeah. I don't want to prescribe who is the one and who is not the one.
Okay.
Should the players that are not dribbling contain shape as if they were 7, or should they contain shape as if they are no other players?
As if there are no other players. This setup should work just by the 5 people, and it is all about the 5 people. And I think the 2 deeper players come like essentially just come in more for the deeper options, or positions will rotate eventually. So yeah, for this setup, you don't need to have those 2 deeper players.
Is the idea of the two people dribbling always to pass to the sidelines and not to the, so is the middle person only there to like reset it into the middle and then start dribbling again?
Can you point on what middle player you're talking about?
So we had the two
This one? Can you
people
see
in,
my? Yeah.
I can't really see because I'm on my phone, so I can't really see where you're at right now. But there was the two people in the beginning who were dribbling, and then one person on the left sideline, one on the right sideline, and then one in the middle in front of the two people dribbling.
Yeah.
So I mean that is what I refer to as the
So that
middle
person in the middle that's not dribbling in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
or
person
whoever is in
is
front
there
of the
to
disc
like
there.
start the swing, but then once they got the disc, they will also be the ones that dribble, and that will be like part of that dribbling give and go movement, and it is going to rotate through.
But what I'm okay, but my question is more like the people who are dribbling from the middle, do they always want to like pass to the sideline rather than to someone in front of them in the middle of the field?
Yes, because their basic idea or principle is look for the return pass, and that's what they are there for. So they are the bouncer for the person that has just thrown to them towards the middle. That person is following their pass, and then they can do give go movements up until that give go movement is stopped by the defense. In this case, there's no defense, so we just have to pretend that it's stopped and then continue throwing to the sideline, to the other sideline.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. I think we can go back into the presentation. Okay. So after this 5-player weave, we play keep disc again, the same kind of keep disc that I introduced earlier, and then end the session with 7v7 full field. Obviously, this is not gonna make the team be experts on flow-based offense, but I've used that basic idea or that practice session on a couple of teams to introduce flow-based offense, and I feel like it has worked. Of course, there are always still more things to learn and more things to do, but I think this is like a good start off to coach this idea of flow-based offense. Okay, what is next? It's I can't move. So next I have a few pointers how to adapt in case just for like different levels of play, for different weather conditions, for when things work out or don't work out the way that you have planned. The number one thing to think about for me, I have mentioned before, is the size of the field. It makes a huge difference if I play keep disc on a very short field, on a very big field. For the warm-up game, the catch somebody with the disc, it makes a huge difference whether we are playing on a tiny field or a full end zone field. So for me, that's always like one of the first things to think about. What should the size of the fields be according to the level of play that I'm trying to teach and coach? The second thing is to change up the goal of the drill. For different kind of drills, I like to always tell, or in the end, when we reach like the end that I had in mind for that specific drill, I would tell them, okay, 10 more passes or 20 more passes. And sometimes I stand there and they can't finish or they don't finish. So just, adjusting the goals. And when I play with beginners, I might tell them, hey, let's go do 8 passes. With Revolution, we would always do 30 passes at practice. And if we only need 30 practice to, if we only need 30 passes in total, because we have completed every single pass, then the whole drill is only 30 passes. But it's just, you know, adjusting the goal for the drill or for the goal that you have in mind is essential to define what players you are coaching and what level of play you're coaching. Another idea that I put down in case you want to teach or coach something new and the level is lower than elite level, then sometimes it helps to just have a prescribed distance of the marker. So maybe the marker should be 2 meters away. In that case, you have, or the thrower has more time, more space to do what they want to do with the disc to throw, and especially when the technique is not quite perfect yet, it helps to keep up the flow of the game. Another adaptation that I always really like to have in mind is it is okay to move on to the next drill. Not all drills are always going to work out the way that you want them to. So, you know, don't be too proud or don't be too caught up in your head. It's fine. If things don't work out, sometimes it's good to just break it off and move on to the next thing. Last thing is to stay flexible. It's probably easier said than done, but even though you feel like you have the best plan that you are well prepared, but then it's storming or pouring rain, or 15 people signed up to be there for practice and then you're only 5 people. It's just important to not always push through the plan that you have in the beginning, or the plan that you have in mind, but be flexible, adjust, and you can also throw everything overboard and just play. Sometimes it's the best idea. Yeah. Okay, I have talked a lot now, and I would say it's your turn, but there's a hidden slide that you can see, and I think we'll do that one. Depends on what time it is. We don't have super much time, but I still like it, and I would love to do it. So we will go into breakout rooms again. I think there will be 10 rooms or something, and you will each get a question that you deal with to try, you know, you'll get like a problem that you have to solve, and you'll talk about it in the breakout rooms. Again, we'll probably have 3, 4, or 5 people presenting.
You should all see the 5 questions now.
Okay, is there someone from group 1 or 2 that wants to present or explain what they talked about and what they came up with?
I think
Yeah,
I can
go.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Go on.
I'll go.
Can do half and half maybe.
Yeah. So with group 2, we had both practical solutions to limit the water break, and then also more communication wise. So practically we thought of making 2 people get all the water bottles for the whole team and bring them to the huddle or to where you're explaining the drill. So you don't have the whole team walking all the way across the field and coming back with their bottles. And sometimes people can just drink while you are explaining something new. And on the communication side, maybe it's good to communicate that you want to have a limited break, or that there's going to be several breaks, so people know, okay, I will have another break later. And if the break takes long because people are taking the time to catch up or to talk, it might be good to encourage your team to come 15 minutes earlier to practice, so they can do the catching up while they're putting on their cleats. And then once practice starts, there's more time to focus. I think that's a few things we remembered.
Maybe the next person can also quickly present what their problem or task was, just for the following presentation.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries. Philip, do you want to add anything, or?
Just like 1 or 2 things that we had in our group was giving a countdown in the end. So in the last 30 seconds, just saying it's 30 seconds to getting back, and then doing a 10-second countdown, and the last person who joins the circle has to dance. and yeah, the other points were similar.
Yeah. I also sometimes like to use countdowns, and I like to use countdowns even better when there's also fun involved. So in that case, I sometimes just tell the players in the beginning of the game or in the beginning of the practice, hey, when I say this word, it can be seagulls. I want y'all to grab a disc and find a dribbling partner, throw 20 passes, and then the first one that gets to me wins the point, or something like that. So in that case, people will get to me super quickly. They will smile when they get to me, and they'll be ready to get the next thing going. So that's just one of the ideas that I always like to implement in my practices. Okay, someone from group 3 and 4, or 3 or 4, who would like to present?
I'm group 4. Planning a 10-minute tactic introduction zone explanation, but it's heavily raining and cold. What do you do? We both agreed we would scrap what we decided and probably just play, keep them moving, keep them warm, and that there's value in throwing and catching in bad weather.
Yeah, I would probably do the same.
Yeah, we also talked about adding like the information that you might have been wanting to talk about with the tactics in the team group chat or in an email or however the team communicates, just so that you can at least have an introduction to how you want to talk about it the next practice, so that the information you wanted to give just doesn't go completely out of touch.
Yeah, good. Being flexible. Okay, so group 5 and 6.
Okay, so our problem was that that the task that the team had to complete was to complete 10 more passes to end the drill, and now it takes over 10 minutes to complete the 10 passes. And what we discussed in our group was that it always depends on the source of the problem, but maybe you could change up the setting of the exercise. For example, change the size of the field. For example, make it bigger so that it is easier for the offense to complete the passes, because there's more space for the defense to cover, or set up the stall count if that's part of the exercise. Or if the problem is that people seem to be not focused enough on the exercise, to set up a reward, like for example a water break after the exercise, to encourage the players to be more focused on the exercise and focused on completing the 10 passes.
Yeah. I actually have before canceled a drill, or wanted to cancel a drill, where I was like, okay, it took us 10 minutes, one more try, and then we'll move on to the next thing. And then the players were like, no, we want to finish it. And then I was like, well, that's great, especially if like the motivation and will for within the team like is there and comes from them, then I'll just be the one that has to suck it off and have to like adjust the training. But if that's what they want to do, it's also okay to do it that way. Yeah, but thank you for the input. It's also good and accordingly fitting. So is that already I think it's already the last groups or the last problem, maybe? No, 2 more. So the groups 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Is there someone that would like to present the issue?
I can present. Or do you want?
No, it's fine, you go.
Okay, so our problem was that a non-binary player of the team approaches the coach and gives the feedback that they don't feel included because of the language. And the first thing would be to listen to the player and hear what he, she, or the player, what their pronouns is maybe, and or thought it would be more not like what language, like English or German or whatever it is, but how to name the person. So first listen to the person and listen to the feedback, and then maybe when it's a new group and maybe they don't know the other names so well at the beginning, then include like a name round and include the pronouns. For example, then I start, hi, my name is Johanna, I identify as she, her. So then everybody can give the feedback how they want to be approached, and but just if the player who approaches you as a coach is also fine with that, if you open that discussion in the group.
Yeah, obvious, I hope. I mean, we as the Ultimate Frisbee community, I hope we all want the same thing, which is to respect and include every player. So it's important to pay attention to language, to listen to everyone, and adjust when there's feedback and when there are wishes from within the team. Okay, so we can move on to the last issue, which can be presented by group, I lost count, 10, 11?
9.
9, 10?
It's 9, yeah. Our task was to think about what you got to do if your team is lacking intensity and focus. And we had a bit of a discussion about why it might be that the team is lacking intensity and focus, and got to the issue that most of the training sessions are late in the afternoon. And it's kind of okay that some people after a long workday don't have the same intensity and focus which they would have on a tournament weekend. So one thing we thought about is that we have like one exercise we really want to focus intensity on and communicate that clearly. So we have like one maybe basic exercise or one more complicated exercise where we really tell the people before to focus, bring the A game, and after that have a break and continue with more lightweight exercises and more playful stuff. And the other thing we came up with is kind of similar to the thing group 5 and 6 came up with, to make it more playful, put more goals into it, and yeah, bring the mind to it that way.
Nice, thank you very much. Okay, this is it for the main part of the presentation and the workshop. What remains is a little Q&A. We started like 5 to 10 minutes later. We are now approaching 10 minutes after our deadline. I think we can wait or answer a couple of questions before we finish it off.
I have a question. How do you organize who is about to do like something for the flow offense so that not 5 players are trying to get the disc at once? Like, is there a rule, kind of, I don't know, the next to the disc, or first the give and go, and then if not the give and go, then this and this, or are there rules, or?
No, they're not like rules in that way. Who is the one that should cut or should not cut first? It's more because there's so much of the control in the player that has the disc and the first player that is being thrown to, because first you throw to the first open pass that you see, and it can be wherever. Then you follow your pass and you try and get the give and go. If that throw has not been thrown, then you play to the next open player, which does not mean that all the players have to clog and run right into the player. It just means that you take the next viable open option. It sure is like one of the problems that might occur when you first introduce flow-based offense, that you really want to like use and maintain all the space. But for that, I also really like the exercise with the square, that I introduced earlier in my practice sessions, because there are so many open players that are not guarded and not covered that it's really easy to throw to other spaces and places in the field. And you can also like throw to the other side of the field where there's no one covering that sideline bouncer and that sideline person. So that's one of the ideas that I had when I'd introduced flow-based offense, to change that issue, or to address that issue.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question about the offense. So I've been coaching my national team, which is just doing a vertical stack and a lot of dump and swing. And one of the examples is that the resets have to cut diagonally away so that we can hit the swing on the break side. So my question is, the flow offense, it looks really exciting and fast. And I'm wondering if can two offenses coexist together, or will one take away from the other? Because in flow offense, the dump will come at the back and they'll catch it right behind the handler. So I'm wondering, can it be used as a tactic for a few points? So let's say I'm playing like 12 offense points and I'm saying, okay, maybe we can do the flow line. So is there a way it can exist or together, or are they very fundamentally and philosophically different?
I definitely think that they can coexist, yes. The idea is just, if in the team that you are coaching, do you want to have like different lines, an O line or D line, an A line or a B line, or something like that? And then you can, one of the ideas is to just say, okay, this line always plays flow-based offense, or this line is playing more like the traditional vert stack or set play oriented kind of game. Another idea is to just always play flow-based offense after a turn, because I think especially for like fast break or the options after a turn, this is like very dangerous and super hard to stop, especially when the team that has just played offense is now has to play defense, and they just can't follow up or control any of the game. So yes, they can coexist, and obviously like the advantages of vert stack, people or the players have learned how to throw crazy crazy breaks, and maybe in the flow-based offense that they won't get into the position as much to have to throw those crazy break throws, and maybe they're capable of doing even more. But the idea of flow-based offense is also that it is more simple, and there are less options to make mistakes, or less situations to make the mistakes. So yes, they can coexist, but you always have to like find your own way to like find or make a collaboration of the different styles that you think of.
Thank you.
Okay,
Have you had experience with a mixture of flow and static offense? Like I know we do it for an end zone end game, that we isolate the handling and they do flow based, but also like in the field, I know there are some American teams that make an isolation and only a few players deep as static options.
Yes, I think with the German national team, we are also right now figuring out, well, maybe we're already past the process of finding out who and when to use flow-based offense, when not to use it, who is using it, what line is using it, what line is not using it. I think this is like a very individual question, and you have to look at the strengths of your team and the strengths of every single player that is on your team, because the strengths of your team define or should define what your philosophy or what your strategy is. So a combination for sure is possible. I like the flow-based end zone style, red zone play.
If there's really no other question, I would like to switch topics a bit, because we're here for empowering women. So what made the choice for you to switch your primary sport and keep doing ultimate? Was it like maybe women specific, or was it like, oh, I'm good at it and it makes more fun, so I'm gonna do it?
Why I changed from soccer to frisbee?
Yeah.
I think I just felt like it was more exciting. It was more dynamic, and it also helped that I was good at it from the beginning. And when I'm good at something, it is more fun for me. But I think it's mostly just the dynamic and the flow and the excitement. There's not just 1 or 2 goals, and you have to work like 20 minutes, half an hour to like get that one goal. But every 2 minutes there's a goal, and every 2 minutes you have achieved a bit, like a tiny part of your big goal to win the game.
Thank you.
I would actually have a question. Because like I understand like the concept of flow offense as like a way of playing ultimate, but strategy wise, what do all the other people that are not at the moment directly involved in like the play do? Where do they position themselves? And I find it hard to understand, like to not clog like open spaces and stuff. Yeah.
I really understand the questions. It's a good question. I think it can also be a question that I could like make a new workshop about though. So I think at this point, I will just open my presentation again and close the circle, because I have written down some key takeaways and also some resources that again I really I recommend, because I have learned a lot through the videos that I've watched on Patreon by Felix, the Hive Ultimate. It gives you a lot of practice ideas, a lot of drill ideas, and also the idea how it keeps going, how to maintain space, how to get and use actually all the advantages of flow-based offense, because there's only so much that we can talk about and discuss in 2 hours, and this goes more into detail, and it's very well thought out. So I think what I'll say, if you want to learn and know more about this, go follow them, or just watch film. That also takes more time to educate yourself, but it's also very interesting to see. You can watch film from Colombia, from Clapham, from Revolution. I think there are many teams that are implementing the idea of flow-based offense, and I think there'll be more and more teams in the future.
Thanks.
Yeah. And then just as the last thing, the key takeaways, you can all read them. I can repeat them too, as the 3 principles. I hope that you can still hear them. Throw the open pass, follow your pass, look for the return pass. Never forget again, please. Then game forms, game variations, use as many game variations in practices that you can and wish for. Competition is key for having fun, in my idea. Use inclusive language, very important. And the 2-2-1 rule that I explained to you earlier today. Anyways, we lost some people along the way, but I also think it took a little bit longer than we expected to. I was very happy to see so many faces and names from all over the world. This was a pretty cool setup. Thank you so much to Sandra. And I hope that you will come back again for the, I think, next 2 workshops in the series.